Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a very special night tonight. You are here with us. We want to thank you. My name is Hector Dominguez. I'm here on behalf of the Cook County Assessor's Office. We have some special guests with us tonight. We have the Cook County Assessor Fritz Kaegi himself. Let's give him a round of applause. And then we have Representative Emanuel Welch. Let's give him a round of applause. We are going to be, that was funny. We are going to be joined in later by one of my favorite coworkers, Nicole. Let's give her a round of applause as well. We have a full night for you guys tonight, guys. We're going to be talking about property, some property taxes, appeal processes, or processes, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But tonight, we're going to hand it over to Representative. Go ahead and take it away, sir.
Hey, good evening, everyone. State Representative Emanuel Welch here from the 7th District. I'm sitting in my office here in Westchester, really looking forward to this presentation here tonight because my phones have been ringing off the hook since our assessor friend here sent out those triannual assessments. And he reached out to me right away and said, hey, how can I help? How can we explain the process and help residents navigate that process and file appeals? And really responded quickly like the champ that he is. So I'm honored to be here tonight with Cook County Assessor Fritz Kaegi and to help you all navigate this assessment process and learn how to file appeals of the assessment if you disagree. And hey, I filed my appeal already. So, I'm trying to lead by example, and that's because they've walked me through it. Since I've been in the legislature the last 8 years, 4 terms in office, one of the biggest complaints that I have is property taxes. And so our assessor is here to help answer a lot of the questions that we have. And I'm looking forward to participating in this event with him. How you doing, Assessor?
We're doing great. Good to be with you. I'm coming to you right from next door from my home in Oak Park. So, glad to be with you. Glad to be joining you again after doing a session like this back in the summer, and happy to answer everyone's questions. I wish we could solve all the problems of the world through our assessment system, but at least we can do is get the assessments right, and that's what we'll tell you about how we do that here tonight. Happy to have everyone joining us. We know there are many places that you could be at the witching hour. I've got 3 kids, a couple of hungry pets, and a wife who's been teaching all day. So I know many of you also have demands on your time, so we appreciate everyone being here tonight, and we'll try to get you the information you need. How about so should I lead in here, and then we'll hand it off to Nicole, and yes, then to Hector? Is that how we'll do it? Well, that's yes, great, sir. Perfect. So we wanted to give you 3 different key takeaways tonight. First of all, I, as assessor, I want to tell you how we fit into the overall property tax system. We're part of it, but not all of it. And it's important to know so that if you have a problem, you know how you can get to the bottom of the problem. Second of all, we'll give you some more information on how the assessments shook out in your neighborhood and in Proviso Township. I'll tell you how we got to our numbers, so you have that context. And then the third thing we want to give you is if you feel like we got the number wrong, if we are 250 people who are trying to estimate the value of 1.8 million unique properties all around our great and wonderful region, and we can always get that wrong. Sometimes there's information that we don't have, and for those cases like that, that's why we have the appeals process. And Hector is really terrific. He can give you everything you need to walk you through. As Representative Welch mentioned, it is really easy to do, and we can give you all the tools. We've tried to make it as easy as possible with a couple wrinkles that we've added. But first of all, let me give you the perspective of how we fit in here at the assessor's office with the overall property tax system. So there are 2 real pieces that you have to remember about the property tax system. The assessor's office, we estimate the value of everyone's property, but we don't determine the amount of tax that has to be raised. And actually, our assessments don't change the amount of tax that's collected in your community. The amount of tax that's collected in your community is determined by your school district. That's about 2/3 of your property tax bill. About the rest would be your village, your library board, and the county and all the other services that we need to keep things going, to provide us with public health, to provide us with all the other services that we need, like water and so on. But 2/3 of your property taxes are for schools, and assessments don't change how much is collected. So one of the things that I learned when I started this job is that there's this word called levies, and people thought that levies are kind of a confusing term. Is it a percentage? Is it a rate? No, levies are a fixed amount of dollars that your school district needs, your local village needs to function. And basically they arrive at that number from seeing what other sources of revenue they have compared to their costs, and whatever amount of costs they have, in excess of the other revenues that they have, that's where they come up with the levy. And so it's a fixed amount of dollars. I live in Oak Park. We got about 200 million that we have to raise every year. Depending on which community you're in, it might be 50 million, it might be 100, it might be 150. But it's a fixed amount of dollars, and your assessor does not change that. That's the amount that needs to be raised. What the assessments do is they decide what is your piece of that amount of levy that is being raised in your community. And the key thing there is that's a little bit different from if you're new to the area, or you might even just expect it to be the case. We don't have fixed rates here. So in many parts of the country, you have a fixed rate. Might be 6, might be 10, might be 2, might be 20% of your assessed value becomes how much you pay in property taxes. But here in Illinois, it's the opposite, because we start with the levy and we divide the levy amongst us based on all the assessed values in our community. So the thing that's really unique about how we do it in Illinois is your assessment doesn't exist in isolation. It's connected with how everyone else is assessed in your community too, because that determines your rate. The more value is in your community, the smaller your piece of the pie, the smaller your piece of the levy, and the lower the rate. And the key to us doing a good job, what you should expect out of your assessor, is making sure that everyone is assessed fairly. Of course, you want to be assessed fairly, but the real key is your share of that levy is as small as it should be. You don't want to be paying more than your fair share of the levy. And so that's what we're really focused on trying to fix. You might have seen that there was a big study that was done, released last week. It was front page news in the Tribune, showing that in many communities, big commercial properties were underassessed, meaning everyone else in the community was picking up the tab for those properties. And that includes small businesses, and that includes homeowners. And the amount of burden that other people had to pick up was quite substantial. In many communities, it was over $1,000 per year more than they should have been paying. So fixing all of our assessments makes a big difference for each person. And we've really tried hard to work on that. The more that we're making sure that those groups of properties that were underassessed before are properly captured, that means your rate is lowered. And I'm pleased to report that we reassessed the north suburbs last year. In just about every township we reassessed, the rate went down. And the rate went down because we're focused on getting better data and assessing those big commercial properties correctly. And the benefit was passed on to the average homeowner. And so we're trying to do that in every community, no matter where we go. And sometimes there are gaps in this data. So the gaps that affect our ability to assess big buildings or small houses or modest houses or big houses, a lot of times we don't have the right data on the building. And Nicole and Hector will tell you a little bit more about why that's so important. So this is the first thing that I wanted to leave you about the system here. We have worked hard with Representative Welch on a bill called the Data Modernization Bill that will help us fill those gaps which create disparities in assessment. So the disparities that were talked about in that study and that were talked about in the news last week, where the big properties tended to be underassessed and smaller properties tend to be overassessed, well, that's due to gaps in data. There are other problems that might have created that in the past too, but a big problem is not having good enough data. And so Representative Welch we're proud to say, is one of the chief co-sponsors of our data modernization bill, which will create a framework so that larger properties have to submit basic information about their rents and expenses so we can get their assessments right. And little businesses will benefit too, because they won't be as overassessed before. We'll be getting the bigger properties right, and we'll have appropriate information about the small ones. With COVID hitting us so hard right now, we really need to know how it's affecting different kinds of businesses. We know many businesses have aren't able to collect rent, aren't able to stay open, or having problems with occupancy, or maybe they've changed the rent terms for their tenants. And having that data to see how the smaller businesses are affected differently from the larger ones is so important. And the data bill is really key to doing that. So it passed out of the Senate by bipartisan supermajority, and your representative and many other representatives in the House are on board with it, and will be pushing hard to get it passed in the next session. We also worked hard with Representative Welch on getting other benefits passed, like automatic renewal of the senior exemption. We'll be talking to you tonight to make sure about how you make sure you have all the exemptions that you're entitled to. And my father, who's over 65, and many other seniors that I know, for many years they've complained about the fact that they have to recertify every year that they're still over 65. We're not getting any younger. This is a great imposition. And imagine what an imposition this would have been in the conditions of COVID, with physical forms having to be turned in every year. So with great foresight, Representative Welch and so many other members of the House and Senate, we worked together to get that bill passed, and hundreds of thousands of seniors in Cook County had their senior exemptions renewed this year. We also had exemptions renewed for many folks this year in addition to that, which is seniors with disabilities, veterans with disabilities, and the senior freeze. They automatically renewed this year because of conditions of COVID. And we'll try to see what other kinds of exemptions can be renewed every year so that we are best serving you. With that, what I'd like to do now is to pass this on to Nicole. I've given you sort of a high-level sense of how the system works. Now Nicole's going to give you sort of get right down to the ground floor and tell you about what we've seen going on in your community with respect to how we came up with the assessments. And then you can start to see if this data relates to you, if it relates to your home in a way that you understand. And then Hector can tell you about, if you feel like the assessments haven't treated you correctly, what you can do to appeal it.
All right, thank you. Hopefully you now should be seeing my screen, and anyone please feel free to just interrupt if you've got questions. All right, so I'm going to be reporting on Proviso Township, focusing on you guys here in the 7th District. As Assessor Kaegi said, reassessments are every 3 years, and that can be really confusing because you get a tax bill every year. Actually, you get 2 tax bills every year, but our job is to reassess property values every 3 years. In the south and west suburbs, properties were last reassessed in 2017, and then now in 2020, they're being reassessed again. So that's kind of 3 years of market activity that our office needs to catch up to. The important thing to remember is for those notices that you receive in your mail, 3 weeks ago, that won't affect your property tax bill until next July. There's this kind of lag in the system, and that lag is there because the schools and community health centers in your area haven't figured out what their levy is yet. They got to balance their budgets first. So they usually do that, it'll probably be in December of this year. So that's why we don't know what your tax bill is. Okay, so what the heck is Proviso Township? Cook County is divided up into 38 townships, and this is just the geography of what the assessor's job is to do. So our job is to reassess 1/3 of the county every 3 years. Proviso is here, and you'll notice it's a little bit different shape than other political geographies that we're a little more used to. So the 7th District overlaps a couple of different of these assessment townships, but I'm going to focus on Proviso because that's one of the larger areas. It's actually the 3rd largest in the south and west suburbs. Okay, so I want to talk about some Proviso trends. And first I'll talk about sales data. So our analysts saw that in Proviso, about 3 to 4% of homes sold, which is a pretty good turnover rate, indicates high interest in the area. And here's what we saw in the sale values of those homes. over the last couple of years, from 2015 to 2019, sale values increased, such that from 2016 to 2019, so these are the most recent years of sales that we use to estimate home values, there's actually a 26.5% increase in the median sale values of homes. So this is just what went on in the market, and this could be this indicates that homeowner equity has increased in this area, and that there's been some pretty consistent and solid recovery from the housing crisis in 2008. So this is actually kind of reassuring to us to see that vitality in this area is strong. Okay, so that's median sale prices of homes that sold, but the assessor's job is to estimate the values of all properties. So even the ones that sold and the ones that didn't. And so now we'll talk about those notices that you guys got. The median of those values, again, for a single family home in 2020 of the notice that you received was about $204,000. So on average, we see a median increase of about 21%. And again, that increase is because we're catching up on 3 years of market activity. I want to talk a little bit about neighborhoods. So each township is divided further into these neighborhoods. And I just want to talk a little bit about neighborhoods 20, 80, and 104. This is like Bellwood, Hillside, and Westchester. And you can find all this data on our website. I'll show you where, but I just kind of want to walk you through just these 3 neighborhoods. Okay, so we've got these 3 neighborhood codes. And here's what happens when a lot of us receive our reassessment notices. It has your 2019 estimated fair market value on there. But again, because most places weren't reassessed since 2017, that 2019 value is probably left over from that last reassessment, so it's kind of old. And then we see the 2020 value, and here's the median for each of these neighborhoods. And we think, oh my gosh, it went up 45%, 10%. Again, that's just our job is to fairly align to the market. And we have to do that for everyone so that everyone pays their fair share. Here's a comparison, though, that we also provide, and we hope that you'll make. We can look at sales in each area, and in each of these areas, we see a good number of sales, over 100. And here are the median sale prices in 2019. So 2019 is like the most recent year of data that we have to estimate home values. And so we found that, these were the median sale prices. So one observation that I had was in Westchester, that percentage increase is lower, but I think that's because housing values are higher. So, whenever home values are higher, they don't tend to increase as much just as a percentage of value. And then I kind of want to introduce a number called a sales ratio. So what we do is we actually measure the accuracy of our own assessments by the highest standards set by the International Assessment Officers Association. And our goal is to be between 0.9 and 1.1. That means that we're between 90% and 110% of like the actual sale values, such that our guess was actually pretty good. And we find that we're tracking the market pretty closely, between 98% to 101% of home values. So what we're hoping is that the notices that you individually received are pretty reflective of a fair and accurate market value of your home in 2020. Of course, we've talked a little bit about residential data. And again, the median increase was about 26%. So overall, from 2019, this is Board of Review finalized values. So we're not the last arbiter in property values. That's actually the Board of Review. We've seen about 26% growth, but fairness is important for all property owners. Here's the growth that our office has seen in all other classes. So this includes all of those wonderful commercial properties, large apartments, even vacant land. And we've seen actually a larger increase there. And again, part of it is due to what Assessor Kaegi mentioned of historic underassessment of commercial properties. In that report that he alluded to, this isn't from our office, it's from outside research. They found that in Proviso, median ratios for commercial properties were nowhere near 1.0. It was actually more like 0.75. So, and there was regressivity as well, so that bigger commercial property owners paid less than their fair share, and everyone else paid more. So when Assessor Kaegi talks about the kind of the share of the pie, we can actually look at that too. And what we've seen based on our values is that in 2020, that kind of share of the pie, or how the who pays what in property taxes is shifted a little bit. Okay, so just a reminder, this won't affect property taxes until your second installment, which is next summer, 2021. And I just wanted a quick mention. We're not using just sales data to produce home values. We're also, for every single home, adjusting its value based on our estimates of COVID-19's effects on property values. You can read more about that, but what I want to tell you guys here is because of a small processing error, some people might not have gotten that adjustment on the value that you received. So there's a quick way to check it. Basically what it means is, our office knows that you should have gotten this adjustment, and that adjustment is on average 10%. So if you just check that, then you'll know whether you're going to be getting that adjustment later or whether you already got it. So you can check this at cookcountyassessor.com. Just look for proviso and just click the links and you'll find everything you need. And all that research I presented is there too if you want to look at numbers on interactive graphs and stuff for your township. And it's possible that even after taking into account these COVID adjustments to property values, you might still feel that that number on that notice is just way too darn high. Like there's no way that's a fair value of your home. And if that's true, then you can go ahead and file an appeal. So with that, I will turn it over to Hector. Unless anyone else has questions about data.
I'm sure they will, Nicole, but how about we hold it until the end, and we don't want to rain on Hector's
Sounds good.
With all the getting in the details first.
Well, first, let's give Nicole a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. She probably has the hardest job. She takes all of the stuff that no one understands and converts it into things we all understand. That's the best way that I can describe it. So give me a quick second. Let me share my screen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are here today, Cook County Assessor's Office. I really don't even have to do a lot of this because what the assessor covered, what the representative covered, and what Nicole covered is what I'm about to cover too. But I'm gonna just touch a couple different topics. So very quickly, if you look at our screen, left-hand side is a reassessment notice. It'll have a picture of your house on the top right-hand corner. This is not a bill. This is issued from our office. It has important information on it. Your name, your PIN number, your township, your neighborhood code, your construction type, property class, all the fun stuff you're going to need if you do decide to file an appeal. Underneath there, right here, is kind of the information of the previous years, right? What the home was worth previously. Now, this is just a sample, so don't freak out. But at the very bottom is a deadline. That is where your deadline would be marked. It would say, Monday, October, whatever, 2020 or something like that. That's where you would find your deadline. On the right-hand side is a property tax bill. You should receive 2 of these a year. Both are issued from the Cook County Treasurer's Office. The one in February is blue, has 0 exemptions on it, and is 55% of the previous year's total bill. The second installment tax bill, which is yellow, the one in front of you, has all your discounts and has the breakdown of what the assessor was speaking about earlier. So I'm going to cover that very quickly. Earlier, he spoke about taxing bodies, levies, tax levies, all mean the same thing. The different taxing bodies within your specific township. There are 38 different townships. Each township has its own tax rate, meaning the numbers are going to look different for everyone. Here is an actual breakdown of an example, what the amounts were in 2018, so last year's tax bill, and what the amounts are for this year's tax bill. And you can see the totals at the very bottom. And just to let you know, the assessor spoke about schooling districts. If we look, just for this taxpayer alone, again, this is an example, but it is a real bill. From this taxpayer alone, they needed $3,200 times 1,000, 2,000 different constituents or taxpayers in each area. That's where that money is going. The other part of your tax bill that I want to show you guys is your tax calculator. Bottom left-hand corner, it has your exemptions right here. your homeowner exemption, your senior exemption, senior freeze, disabled person, disabled veteran, returning veteran, all will be listed here. Now, I know that some of the questions we keep receiving, or you all keep asking is, well, hey, I don't understand where the values came from. Last year, my home was worth this, and then this year it's worth this. What we would like to show you, kind of cover again what Nicole was talking about, is that these values are not from 1 year to another. They're from 3 years out, right? You get reassessed every, bad hair day, guys. You get reassessed every 3 years. So Nicole is who created this nice little picture here. The yellow is the southern portion of the county, which is 2020. That is who is being reassessed right now. Next year is this baby blue portion. That's the city. If you live in the city, you'll be reassessed next year. And then the dark blue at the very top, that is the northern part of the county. They will be reassessed in 2 years. Now, you receive your notice. You have a job to do. Look at your notice and say, hey, I think I can sell my home for this amount of money. If the answer is yes, then you should not be appealing. If the answer is no, then maybe you want to appeal. But if you appeal, you have to have a reason why you're appealing. I'm going to show you those reasons in a little bit. But you can't just appeal because your friend told you to, or because you got a letter from an attorney's office that said you should. I'm not going to put them on blast, but I actually received a letter the other day from a tax rep or whatever you want to call them, saying that I've been overassessed and they can guarantee that they're going to get X amount of dollars off my tax bill, and they can do it all for me, and they only want me to pay them if I win. The problem is my specific township closed back in July. So I got this letter now. They couldn't help me, and once I sign the contract, I'm obligated legally to pay them. So just be aware of what you're signing. Next, when you file your appeal, an analyst will then go and say, okay, let me see. Is there enough evidence here to determine a reduction? If not, and then there will be a no change. Here is how you could file an appeal. I'm going to leave this up on the screen for a couple seconds just so that you can take a screenshot, or you can use your phone to take a picture of it. This is where you would file your appeal. CookCountyAssessor.com/online-appeals. It's an online portal, guys. It will walk you through everything. I did mine on my phone. You can do it on your iPad, your laptop, from the comfort of your sofa. This is really easy to do. You can edit your appeal. You can save it. You can revise it. But once you submit it, you're done. That's it. You can submit all supporting documents as well. And anything from our office when it comes to appeals is absolutely free. I know that was one of the questions I saw earlier pop up is, do you have to pay for this? Absolutely not. These things are free. We also want to let you know that there was a change in our office. In 2020, taxpayers now have 35 days to file their appeal and everything that comes with it. In the past, we did 40 days and then 8 days of additional documentation and then 5 or 3 days of re-reviews. We're not doing that anymore, just 35 days, guys. So now I'm actually going to show you how to do this. I'm going to walk you through it. So first, we're going to go to CookCountyAssessor.com. Once you get there, you're going to hover over the Appeals tab, and then you're going to click Online Appeals. From there, we have a nice little video that we made that can help walk you through how to do this, covering everything I'm covering right now. And then there is information you will need before you can file your appeal, or you'll need it for your appeal, actually. So once you do that, you want to scroll down to where it says Launch Online Appeal Portal. And then from there, you would create your account. Now, I did mine from my phone, but you can do it from anywhere, guys. And once you do that, you are in. Once you click login, you're going to get a screen. That screen is going to say, what kind of appeal do you want to file? For what we're talking about tonight, you would want to do a residential appeal, the letter R. Unless you're a condo, then you would do a condominium co-op, letter C. So let us begin. Once you go to file your appeal, the first area you're going to be in, or the first tab you're going to be in, is the Verify Parcel tab. We just need the information. That's all. We need your PIN number. We need your name. We need your address. We need your property class. Super simple. After that, we need to know, are you appealing only for this year, or was there a factual error in the assessment where you believe you were overassessed for multiple years? What does that even mean? That means, for example, our office said you had a building with 6 apartments or less, but you really had a single family home, right? Or our office says you had a 2-story property, but you really had a condo. I don't know. There's a factual error, not an opinionated error, right? A factual error. If that is the case, this is where you would file that information. Here, we just need to know, are there any additional PINs? What does that mean? That means your property may be prorated. What does that mean? That means you have more than one PIN number for your property, right? So how would you know this? You would know this because when you get a tax bill, instead of getting 1 in February and 1 in July like everybody else, you would get 2 in February, or 2 in July, or 3 in February, 3 in July, something like that, right? Where you would get more than one tax bill. Now we need to know who you are. Are you the executor? Are you the beneficiary? Are you the former taxpayer, owner liable for the taxes? Are you the tenant? We need to know who you are. Are you legally able to file this appeal, right? Those are the kind of questions we're about to ask. Now we need to know your name, your address, the city you live in, city, state, zip, phone number, and then your email address. Excuse me. Now, sorry. Now, here's where it gets a little fun. We get this question every day. I literally just answered one while in the comments while Nicole was speaking. Hey guys, I don't have 2 bathrooms. I only have 1.5. This is where you would correct all of those mistakes, right? All of those errors, all of those property characteristic errors. All you gotta do is edit it. That's it, right? So if you have a single story home, then you would just click on single story. And just review this because it might be correct. Maybe you've never even heard of this. Just look it over and fix whatever needs to be fixed. You can click and you can just retype certain things. All right, now, earlier we talked about wanting to appeal and how if you want to appeal, you need a reason for appealing, right? Here are the reasons. I'm going to go over them for you. Lack of uniformity. That means myself and Nicole will live on the same block, house built by the same people, same size, same color, same everything. But for whatever reason, her value is less than mine. And that probably means my tax bill is greater than hers. So I want to know why my property is not uniform to those similar to mine in my area. Next is overvaluation. That's probably everybody watching this, right? There's no way my house is worth this much. There's something wrong here, guys. The next one is vacancy occupancy. That means you have an empty property. You just got to prove it. How do you prove you have an empty property? Super simple. Just take a picture, and then I will show you how to submit that in a second. Fire damage, self-explanatory. If you had a fire, we need police reports, fire reports, incident reports, insurance estimates, pictures, all of that. The next one is property description area, and that's what we just talked about, where we say your home is a condo, but it's really a single-family home, or there's a factual error there. Building is uninhabitable. That means you physically can't live there. That means you're not allowed to. That means the city or the township or municipality you live in put a big orange or yellow sticker on your home that says you can't get in, right? The next one is building no longer exists. Self-explanatory. If there is no building, you just have to prove it. And then other. Other is different. Other is for like acts of God, right? What would that be? Well, something that's not on this list. It's actually raining right now by my house, and it's thundering and lightning. Super bright on this side, but super dark on this side. And God forbid lightning strikes and hits the tree in front of my house, and the tree falls and lands on my house. That is not one of the reasons why one would appeal. So that's where other would come in. Now we have this other option here, field check. If you don't need to use it, but if you want to use a field check or you want to request a field check, just click yes. and then let us know why, right? When requesting a field check, someone from our office is going to come out to your home. They are going to redraw and remeasure your property. They do not need to go inside your home, and they must carry their county ID with them. If you have people around your home and you feel a little weird or out of place, just ask them for their employee ID. Very simple. Excuse me, very simple. And if they have it, you're good. If they don't, they probably don't work for us. Now, earlier we talked about additional documentation, right? Things you want to submit along with your appeal. For appealing, there is nothing you have to submit, right? But some people have pictures. Some people have, appraisals, plata surveys, documentation that they want to submit on their behalf to better their chances, right? If that is the case, this is where you would do that. I would just caution you or just give you a heads up. Be aware of what you're uploading and where you're uploading it at. You don't necessarily have to, follow the headings. However, some of these only upload 10 documents, 5 documents, or some only allow Word documents uploaded versus JPEGs, which are pictures, right? So just be careful what you're uploading and where you're uploading it at. There are more headings. I just couldn't fit them all on one page. Next, we have the legal notice, right? The legal notice, the good people in our legal department. Just want to make sure you know what you're doing, guys. Please be advised that once you click submit, you will not be able to make changes or additional documents or add additional documents to this filing, which we talked about earlier, right? Once you submit, you got to commit, right? If you do submit, you must commit. That's just the reality because we can't go back in and change it. So want to make sure you have that information. You put your name, your phone number, the email that you're using for this, and then click submit. Guys, once you click submit, you're going to get a big pop-up that says, are you sure you want to submit this filing? I would encourage everyone at this point to just do a mental check, right? Did I file everything correctly? Did I fill out everything correctly? Did I type everything out correctly? Is there anything else I want to add to this, right? Some people, I saw that earlier too, were asking questions about comparable properties. You don't need to file comparable properties with the assessor's office. Our office is going to do that for you. However, if you do have something you want to submit, you absolutely can, and just make sure you do it before you're finished submitting. Once you are done submitting, you will get one of these. Confirmation. Thank you. Your request has been successfully submitted. It will give you'll receive your filing ID, right? And then right underneath there, it says, please print off a copy of this filing for your records. Guys, this is your confirmation page. We get this email every single day. Hey guys, I filed my appeal, but I didn't get my email confirmation. And here's my filing ID. If you can provide us with a filing ID, that means you have your confirmation page. Will you receive a confirmation email? Absolutely. But it'll take a little while, So you definitely want to just take a screenshot of this, print this out for your records, so that way we can help you and you have the information you need. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Let me move this out. And then we're going to jump into my favorite part of the night, Q&A. And we're going to have some help today. So let's unmute. Beautiful, beautiful. Representative Welch, are you muted or no?
Not anymore.
Hey, maybe. And what I'll do is I just wanted to sum up, Hector. That was great.
Thank you, sir.
That was perfect. You gave all the information everyone needs. I'm sure that's the main interest of a lot of people here tonight. The information that Nicole had was great. I think the key thing to remember of all the things that Nicole had, in addition to what was going on with the market, is that last slide that she had, which is that even though single-family homeowners assessments went up, their share of the total property tax base in Proviso has gone down. So we see, each individual share owner's share of the pie on the assessed values that we've calculated has actually gone down, and that's kind of consistent with what we saw in most of the northern suburbs last year, where most communities, folks did see their assessments go up, but their rates also went down because their share of the pie went down. So that's a really good reminder that a change in your assessment does not mean the same amount of change in your bill. You can actually get an increase in the assessment, but your bill can go down. I'm not saying it's going to happen here because there are a couple things that are a little bit uncertain, but that's just a good reminder. And then I think the last thing, and then we'll get right to questions, is we are the part of the equation that's about trying to figure out what's the value of every single piece of property in your community. But remember, there's this other piece, which is how much money do your schools and libraries and municipalities need to function, and they determine that sum of dollars, and that's the other part of the system. And our rates in Illinois are high because we get less. School districts in Illinois get less support from the federal and state government than any other state in the United States. Our schools have to carry more of the load than any other school districts in the country, and that's not fair. And I know Representative Welch has been a real big part of changing the school funding formula, so we get more dollars coming into our school districts. Every dollar that comes from the state that goes into our schools is one less dollar that your school districts need to levy in property taxes. And let's not leave the federal government off the hook either. I've been raising my voice. Representative Welch has, so many other members saying that the federal government needs to carry more of the cost of educating our kids, because homeowners, business owners, property owners, their shoulders are getting narrowed. We're using Zoom right now. We're using all these video conferencing. This is hurting the value of office spaces, stores, and the shoulders are narrowing for all the burden that has to be carried for our schools. And it's about high time that the federal government started to do more to pick up the load on educating kids in schools, which is 2/3 of property taxes. But anyway, Representative Welch, I want to give you the honor of asking the first questions here, and then we'll get to the questions that folks have out there.
Well, Mr. Assessor, first of all, let me thank you and your team for this event tonight. The information that we've received has just been exceptional, and it certainly gets to many of the questions that me and my team have gotten here in the office over the last 3 weeks. So I want to commend you. I think Hector and Nicole, and behind the scenes, people don't see Angelina and Kelvin and all the work that goes into to getting this type of information and presentation together. So I want to commend you on that. Hector had a couple slides up earlier that I've gotten questions about, and I want to get them out there to just get us going there, Assessor. The first one showed the assessment notice, and it had photos of our homes on it. And many of the notices were like mine. Yes, the one there on my left in the screen with the photo on the top right. My assessment notice still has the original photo of my home when it was a new construction, when it was 2006. Yep. So that's a 14-year-old photo. And so people want to know, why are the photos old? And does that mean someone hasn't actually come out to actually look at the homes?
Representative, that's a great question. It's one of the things that bothered me when in my team when we were coming into this office. So let's take the second question you had first, and then go to the first question. So just because the picture is old does not mean that someone has not been there to get more updated information on your house. So we had a renovation done on my neighbor's house, on other folks' houses, on houses in my neighborhood, 5-7 years ago. It's reflected in our assessments, but the pictures are still old on the site. And that's because the assessor's office gets building permit information from all the municipalities. So anything that has been changed since the time of those pictures, we would have received in a building permit, and that would be reflected in your assessment notice. Now, we can always make mistakes in how we capture the information. Sometimes the footage information can be wrong. Sometimes there's other information. So if you have had a renovation done, make sure that the information on your assessment notice is correct. And that should be in there in the notice that we send you in terms of the footage and the year of construction, type of construction, that kind of information. Make sure you're correcting us on that, so you're only your assessment only reflects that fairly. We are in the process of replacing these pictures. We came in less than 2 years ago. We have a lot of things to fix. One of the biggest priorities to fix was our website, so that you could do all the online appeals and online exemptions that you needed, and that was put into place in the first part of this year. We are now in the process of getting new pictures being done, and we're actually investing in our field staff so we can go out and make sure that all the numbers that we have on people's buildings are indeed accurate, because we do hear stories about our numbers being off. You might have heard about a story of a house up in the North Shore where they didn't send a building permit to us, and they tried to appeal the value of the house using the picture of the old house without even incorporating the building permit information. And we have really good technology now that is starting to help us find these discrepancies, and we're doing hard to work on that so that, you know, folks, whenever they do that, they're cheating you. So we want to make sure that everyone that we're capturing all this information and it is correct. But we have a lot of things to work on. I think those pictures on the website are one, and just know that we're trying to get that up to date too.
Another question I'm getting, Mr. Assessor, because of the rates, a lot of people are going through refinancing of their homes, and they're finding that their real estate appraisals are coming in lower than our assessed value. And it seems like our homes are being assessed higher for tax purposes, but lower when we're trying to take advantage of rates or trying to sell our homes. Can you explain the difference between a real estate appraisal and a real estate assessment?
Well, that great question. I think if any of you guys have any doubt as to, you know, our appraisals being accurate, go back and look at the information that Nicole gave us. They track pretty closely. The average assessment that we have in the community reflects pretty closely the average sales values that took place, and we think we're doing as good a job as we can on making sure that we're taking into account the year of construction, the unique aspects of your location. You know, what we do when we look at a sale, we weight that sale you know, more to your house if it's closer to your house, if it's a house that's more like your house. What we know is that sometimes the appraisers that banks are using don't necessarily do that. Representative Welch, I think you've made a good point that sometimes banks seem to be engaging in some appraisal behavior that might lead them in a direction where they're just not lending in certain communities. And that is not supposed to happen. That's illegal. But whenever we see these discrepancies, you have to wonder. We have been very transparent. We put it out there for how we come up with our values. When we make a mistake, we'll own up to it, but we show our math. We show how we're getting there. You should ask, you know, whenever you have a bank where you've applied for a mortgage and they're telling you that your house value has gone down since they appraised it last, when we just showed you all this information showing that transaction values have appreciated in your community. You got to wonder what the banks are doing. You can ask them some hard questions, and you show them our data. Say, you know, this is what the assessor's office data is showing. Why are you seeing something different? We know the assessor's office has not always been the greatest or the most accurate, but we're trying to change that here and put all the information that we have out on the table. We give you pretty rich community reports on what we're seeing in every different neighborhood. Nicole showed you a neighborhood by neighborhood map, what we're seeing in average prices, what kind of ranges we see, what direction we see, and please feel free to use that if you're challenging a bank appraisal.
Thank you, Assessor.
Now, with that said, we are 250 people assessing 1.8 million unique properties. So make sure that our assessment also incorporates the facts of what you know to be true about your house, because it's always possible that we don't have that information. And when our assessments go wrong, it's usually because of that.
We can get to the other questions, Hector.
Yeah, I know the audience will have plenty. So this is the best part. Hector, you want to MC this?
Let's do it. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Claudia, how are you doing? Let's see. Let's get to the questions. Peggy says, sorry, I worded that improperly. I read in the paper that the assessments were uneven again this time for their locations. I was really hoping this would change when leadership changed.
Well,
Tisk.
okay. Well, that's true, and we're hoping to deliver it to you. The report that was published in the Tribune was about assessments as they were done as of 2018, which is the eve of when our administration came into place. So
the day before you got there.
Right. So right before we came here, and the information was really focused on commercial assessments. We know there have been many problems with residential, but the report was focusing on how far off commercial assessments had been, because homeowners and small businesses were picking up the tab for big properties. We got our first crack at changing that when we were reassessing the northern suburbs last year. Remember that map that Nicole showed you, where we only get to reassess 1/3 of the county every year. So we came into office last year. The first part of the county that we got to reassess was the north suburbs. And what you saw in those communities, and it's been well reported. Don't take my word for it. You can look at the presentations, read the media reports. We really corrected for the undervaluation of these big properties, and it had good results. It resulted in lower rates for everyone in the community. And Cranes wrote an article talking about the Kaegi effect, which is that it was beneficial for most residential homeowners. So you can read about that. Now, we haven't had a chance to do the south suburbs until we reassessed it this year. And as you remember from talking to Nicole, it only affects your tax bill in the second half of next year. Every community is different. You can't necessarily read across what happened in the north suburbs to the south suburbs. But what the information that Nicole showed you was that residential homeowners' share of the base in Proviso has decreased by several percentage points. Now the Board of Review will, commercial properties will get a chance to make their case at the Board of Review. We have seen commercial assessments cut there, which means residential homeowners' share could increase some versus how we've done it. But if it shakes out like it did last year, residential homeowners still came out better. But the key for us is that we want to get this right for everyone.
Yes.
Small commercial, big residential, small residential. We're just trying to get that number right for everyone. And we do think we're getting better on the metrics. The one thing that we could have done better this year is make sure that when we sent out our assessments that everyone had the COVID factor included. Some folks in Proviso, when we sent out their assessments, it didn't have in the notice the COVID adjustment, but everyone will get that COVID adjustment. It's about 10%. What you should do is go to our site, cookcountyassessor.com, type in your PIN, and you can see what the assessment is with the COVID adjustment. Everyone will get it, whether you apply for it or not. And know that we're the first assessment district in the country that's taking this on. We had a choice of, do we incorporate COVID now and do right by everyone? We know how cataclysmic an effect it's having on business, on residences, on the economy. No one's ever seen an impact like this before. Or do we kick it until next year? And we decided that we had enough data. It would take us a little bit more time. It might be troublesome for our IT system, but we thought it's the right thing to do to take this on. The tax code, because it's a natural disaster, allows us to take this on, and so we have, and because we think it's the right thing to do, because we know the effect it's having on everyone.
Hey, Peggy, we have received strong support for the bill. Unfortunately, due to COVID, the legislature kind of got shut down prematurely this year. We were going strong in January and February, and that first week of March, we got briefed by the administration on this virus, and we didn't return from March 5th until late in May. We were only there for 3.5 days to get a budget passed so that we could minimize the damage to working families across the state. But we haven't been back as a legislature since May. So we still have some work to do. We still don't know if we're going to return for veto session in November, where we, theoretically could get the job done and get this on the governor's desk. But there's still some work to be done. And I know the assessor He's been down there working the bill himself, personally educating folks. And if we don't get it done this year because of a global pandemic, we'll go back at it in 2021.
Well, I just echo the thoughts of the representative there, and I think, you know, with what we're seeing with COVID, it's more important than ever, because COVID is really, you know, first of all, I think COVID has shown, has laid bare all the different disparities we have in our state of so many different kinds. And just building on this report that just came out, a lot of these disparities come because of gaps in data. This is the things that lead small businesses to be picking up the tab for large ones, and residential to pick up the tabs for commercial. And through addressing these data disparities, we can reduce that and have everyone have more confidence in the accuracy and fairness of the system. And with COVID impacting so many kinds of commercial properties, we just need that data to measure the impact on the different kinds of properties that are out there. And I think it only will show that this data is not about shifting burdens, but it's about getting things right, getting things accurate and appropriate for each person. And I think it will just highlight that. So I think it just will make even a better case, elevate the importance of it when we come back into session this year or next year.
All right, does the Assessor website have the corrected COVID-19 values, or are you still working on these corrections for proviso?
The website has the corrected COVID-19 assessed value. So just type in your PIN and it will have the with COVID assessed value.
Hey, Assessor Nicole mentioned that we won't see a difference in our bills till next July. Yep. Does that include this 10% COVID reduction you're talking about?
Yes. So all the assessed values that we will certify will include COVID, and all the assessed values that we certify this year only affect the property tax bill in the second half of next year, and that's as normal.
Does the sale data include new homes? If so, is that fair to existing homes whose value is not affected by McMansions?
Great question. We really try hard to make sure that we don't mix fish with fowl and compare apples with oranges and do all sorts of other mixed metaphors that wouldn't be appropriate in language or in assessments. And we try to match the reality that's out there in the world. So when we see new homes, whenever we see a sale, what we do is we look at the bundle of characteristics that come with that sale, just the way you would or someone else in the market would. We look at the year of construction, the type of construction, where it is, a measure of quality, a measure of other characteristics. Is it near a major thoroughfare? We look at a lot of different variables. I think it's something like 30 or 40 of them. Is it in a flood zone? All of these things are taken into account. And I know that's very important in places like Bellwood where you can get flooding. So we take that into account. And if it's a new home, you know, we are not going to give that the same weighting that we would another kind of home. Sometimes if there is a home out there that doesn't have any comparables, we will look at different kinds of homes that sell, but we'll always be taking into account the other factors. Like if there's a home that's 40 years old, it's really not appropriate to compare that to one that's new.
We have lived here since '98. I became disabled in 2001, but didn't know I can apply for a reduction as a result until this year. Our deed is in both mine and my husband's name, but the tax bill comes in his name only. Can I still file for the reduction?
All right, Hector, I want you to tell them about the certificate of error and the timelines that we have, because you can look back up to 4 years for any amount that you've overpaid because you didn't have an exemption in place. And Hector, why don't you tell them how to do it?
Yes, sir. Excuse me. So, long story short, situation like this where the information, you know, maybe you didn't know, or maybe you just had no idea what was going on. Life actually happened, and now you're, hey, wait a minute. Previous years I didn't get this, and maybe I should have. What am I going to do? Super simple. With our office, you can file a certificate of error. We can, as of this moment right now, we can go back to 2016. So we can do 2016, 2017, 2018, and the current year. What will happen is you go to our website, cookcountyassessor.com. There is a certificate of error area. We're actually going to put that in the comments. I think Priscilla already did that, actually. Thank you, Priscilla. And once you get there, we have a list of our exemptions. Click the one that you're missing. So for you, it would be persons with disability, and then they have the years that you can apply for. We would encourage you to do that as soon as possible. For 2019, the deadline was September 11th, so we already passed that, but you can still file your certificate of error. It's just going to take a little bit longer this time around. That's all. So you can go 2016 all the way to the current.
So we will help that with, make sure you get in touch with the folks who are here tonight, and we'll get on that. Make sure you get your information in so you can get all 4 of those years and have it going forward.
For sure. Oh, we got Nicole in here. Does the Assessor website, Property Search, have the corrected COVID-19 assessments for all provided properties, or is it still being updated?
Great question.
That is still being updated for some property owners. So this was that processing error that happened. And because the data systems that our office inherited are so old, we were unable to correct it immediately. I'm trying to be nice. So what that means is for some property owners, even the value on the website can't be corrected quite now, but there is a separate place where you can check that. So if it's all right with folks, I'll just show you how to do that. So you go to cookcountyassessor.com, and you'll see this yellow banner that says Townships Open for Appeals and Proviso. Here's where you click to get all those reports and stuff. And there's this little asterisk here, this little note. Click on that. And then this will talk about the error that happened. Basically, the short version is, for about half of property owners, the market value that you received was adjusted. And for about the other half of property owners, it wasn't adjusted yet, but it will be in the coming, next 8 weeks or so. So to do that, you just go to this article, and you click the little blue button, and you can type in your PIN and check your PIN. So that's how to find that information.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you. That was great, Nicole.
Will a recording of the video be available? Absolutely. It will be on our Facebook, our YouTube. Representative, I'm assuming it'll be on yours as well.
Already on, my man.
Beautiful. See how that team works? See that meshing? You see how that works together? And then the good news is, because it is a video, you can do this. You can rewind, you can fast forward, and you can get to the parts that you really want to know about. Next question. Maybe we don't have another one. Thank you, Teresa. Oh, that is our last question. Look at that, gentlemen.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Well, we know you might have some more that you didn't get to, so we're all at your disposal. Reach out to us on social media. We've got lots of information for you on the website. We've completely revamped it so it's user-friendly. We've also created a new call center. We were lucky we put that into place right before COVID hit, and we can now do it remotely. So our workers are working from home, and we've got the response times down. So if you have any calls, give it a shot. We think response times are pretty good, and so if you need a live voice on the phone, we're here to help.
We want to thank you all for being here with us tonight. You literally could have been anywhere else doing anything else. So thank you, Assessor. Thank you for being here. Representative, thank you for being here. A quick shout out to Angelina, Nicole, Kelvin, Priscilla, Maura, Michelle, Teresa, everyone in the comment section. This is not a one-man band. We are a team. Teamwork makes the dream work. Thank you, guys.
Stay safe.
Thank you, everyone.
Wash your hands, watch your distance, and wear your mask.
Yeah, take care, everyone. Have a good dinner and have a good evening. Thanks again, Representative Welch. Good to see you.
You're the man, Assessor.
That should be our tagline, guys. Wash your hands.
Wear your mask, and watch your distance.
Okay. All right. Take care.